Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam, ala Muhammadan wa alayhi wa salam. All praise is due to Allah, Rabb, cherisher and sustainer of all the worlds. May peace and blessings be upon the noble messenger, his family and companions. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an Muhammadan Rasulullah. None has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. This is week number 11, and we'll be reading from chapter 9, and it's about dawah to atheist and deist. First we're going to start with some definitions, because I know a lot of people like me are confused about these different terminologies, especially in the Arab world. They think atheist covers everything, and it doesn't quite cover everything. There's atheist, and that is one who believes that there is no God. And I have to say from my own personal dawah and other things that I have never met a true atheist. I have met many people who call themselves atheists, recently some nurses from China. But when you talk to them and ask questions, you find that they're not really true atheists. I've never seen one who truly doesn't believe in any God. To begin with, they say this, but when you start questioning, for instance, I asked them, I said, "You don't believe in God?" And they said, "No." I said, "Okay." I said, "How did you become into this world?" "Well, my mother and my father created me." I said, "Okay, then, so men and women create other people?" They said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, can you create somebody for me now?" "I'll wait. Let's sit here for a few minutes and let's go ahead, create somebody for me." And of course, she said, No, I have to have a man and you have to have sexual intercourse and the baby has to be made." So I said, "Really, you don't have a decision as to whether you're going to get pregnant or not?" She says, "No." And I said, "So you still think nobody's creating this baby? There's no God?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Can you decide the sex of the baby?" She said, "No." So I said, "Who's deciding the sex of this baby?" And then she began to get the look on her face like, "Oh, I don't know." Okay, so now you're admitting that you don't really create anything. Something or somebody is creating everything. And then you get the question, well, maybe. When you get to maybe, that's a good part. Then she realizes that she's not really an atheist. And I have never really met a true atheist. And I've met many other people who have made dawah to atheists, and they said they have also never met a true atheist. So atheism, to believe that there is no God or nothing that created everything, I have never found one. There's a quote from a man called Bacon, and he said, "Philosophy causes minds to incline towards atheism. But depth in philosophy, that means going deep in philosophy, causes people's minds to wander towards religion." So those people who are using philosophy, but just very minor philosophy. Oh, it was that dog's turn, he got run over. But if you thought about deeply, somebody caused that dog to be run over that day. Next we're going to talk about deism. Deism is the belief that God exists and created the world, but after that assumed no control over it or the lives of people. He just created you, threw you here, and the rest of it's up to you. But this could not also work based on the theory of who makes babies. You and I cannot decide the sex of the baby. We can't decide how long the baby is going to live, or if it's going to be born still dead. God does not just throw us here and leave us alone. He's already written everything 50,000 years before we were born. And He doesn't do like that. The next one is agnostic. Agnostic is one who thinks it's possible to know whether there is a God or a future life or anything beyond material phenomena. They believe money has to do with everything. It places you where you are, where you're going to be. So there's one kind of agnostic, but there is other kinds based on my own family experience. For instance, my father believes in God, but he does not believe in the God of the Bible. From the Bible that he's read and the people he's talked to, he doesn't believe that God they're describing in the Bible is real. But he still believes there is a God. And he believes that God is merciful and all these other things. And he thinks the God of the Bible is not merciful. Either you do what he says or you're going to hell and be tortured the rest of your life. He doesn't believe this based on the teachings of the Bible. So there's different stages of agnostic. And they go in further and say agnosticism. In theology, the doctrine that God is unknown and unknowable. So they believe there is a God, but He's unknown, and you can't know Him. So there's different layers of agnostics. And these are what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about belief in God's existence. Us as Hadai's, that is the single most important thing for us to start every single time. All through this course, in the 11 weeks, I have said the same thing. First, you must get somebody to believe in Allah. And that there is only one God, or Allah. Of course, we have to be able to explain that the word Allah, it comes from the Arabic language. Before this, it was called Illah in the Hebrew language, or Aramaic during the time of Jesus. It's still the same thing. There's only one God. From Adam until now, we only believe in one God. Now, in the Arabic language, we call Him Allah. We're not trying to hypnotize somebody. We're not trying to say Allah, 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 and the guy goes, no, we're just saying it in the Arabic language. The word God itself is not really English. If somebody asks you where the word God comes from, most people are very confused. They can bring it close to a word in Germany called gut, G-U-T, gut. And that's the closest anybody's ever came to the word God. Nobody knows where the word God came from. And of course, we as Muslims have a problem with this because in the Bible you can find God with a capital G, which means a noun or a pronoun, but then you can find God with a small g, which means a minor God, and we as Muslims don't believe in this. Sometimes you can confuse the issue. It's just easier for you to say Allah and say that it's Arabic for your word of God and finish with it there, because they're going to philosophize and they're going to have you going around in circles and your point is going to be lost. First and foremost, it should be noted that belief in God's existence is not illogical, as modern atheists would have mankind to believe. Ancient Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle rationally concluded that God must exist. Plato argued that there must be a designer. When human beings come across footprints on a beach, they immediately conclude that a human being had to have walked there. And God has left His footprint everywhere, in you, in me, in our children, in the creation outside, everything He's created. His footprint is everywhere. Therefore, you must logically believe that there is a God. Somebody had to do all this. I didn't do it. So for me, I believe God did it. I can plant a seed for a tree, but I can't make it grow. I can't make it look the way I want it to look. Only God can do this. So His footprint, as we say, like the footprint in the sand, if I see a footprint in the sand, I know somebody was before me. Unless I walked in a circle and I'm seeing my own footprints. But somebody had to walk there. Consequently, it's not surprising to find that all human societies throughout human history, with very few exceptions, have believed in the existence of God. It's only in the 20th century that whole societies have been established based on the denial of God's existence. Russia and China and states under their control systematically taught atheism in all of their institutions of economics in China. The resurgence of religion in both countries has been phenomenal. Now there are many Muslims inside of both Russia and China. And you can understand why those people who want communism, they only want you to believe in the state, would not preach believing in God. Anybody who believes in God is going to put them above the state. And this is not what the communists wanted. They want state number one, and you do everything systematically the way they want to do it. However, after the fall of the Soviet system and the abandonment of communist economics in China, the resurgence of religion in both countries has been phenomenal. Anthropologists and psychologists have long held that belief in God was acquired by nurture. This was a natural result of the Darwinian views, which considered humans essentially animals. And thus the absence of religion among apes indicated it must be man-made. And I have to say myself, it's the only thing that distinguishes us between the animals. If we didn't have God and religion, we would be no better than the animals. Why somebody like Darwin wants to be like a monkey, that's up to him. He wants to be treated as an animal, that's up to him. But me, I don't. I'm a human being. I want to be treated like a human being. And God gave me a brain. Why should I not use it? It seems natural and normal for me that God, the Creator, is there in my mind. And it should be, as we were taught, that God stood all of us in front of Him before any man or any woman was ever made. And asked each one of us, all in a line, who is your creator? Who is your God? And we all said, you. Every single person from then to the end of time to Judgment Day said, Allah was our God. So it seems natural to us then when we say it. This was a natural result of Darwinian views, which considered humans essentially animals, and thus the absence of religion among apes indicated that it must be man-made. If monkeys don't have a God, well, how does he know monkeys don't have a God? Teaches us in Islam that all the animals worship Allah and Allah alone. If a bird sits on a tree and no meal comes to him, what's he do? He doesn't cry. He just waits until God provides a meal, and then he goes and gets it. The monkeys are the same thing. If Allah does not provide for them, how are they going to find? We as man, yes, we can think, oh, I'm going to need food next week, so I will save it now. But the animals all sit and wait for Allah to provide for them. This is called risk. So Darwin does not know as much as he thinks he does. In fact, Freud proposed that the Oedipal complex was the basis of human belief in God. I don't know what that means, and I don't think I even want to know what it means. I think it's a waste of my time. Yet some modern researchers increasingly lean to the conclusion that belief in God must be natural. For it to be so widespread, it must be natural. Most men, if I tried to force you to believe in God, you're never going to believe. But if I don't say anything, you automatically believe. It's natural to you. In 1997, experimental evidence for the inherent belief in God was found. Consequently, many of the verses in the Quran addressing God's attributes, only few addresses His existence. For instance, in Surah At-Tur, Allah said, "Were they created from nothing, or did they create themselves? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Indeed, they are uncertain." Today it's raining here. Did any of us do that? No, it comes straight from Allah. He's the one who brought the clouds, and He's the one who caused them to dump the rain. From His mercy. If He doesn't give us mercy, we have no rain. And sometimes He's not giving us human beings mercy. He's only giving mercy to the animals. They cannot feed or drink themselves. Without Allah, nothing. Logic and reason is used to convince humans that there must be a creator. Allah gives three logical possibilities for human creation in these verses. Humans were created from nothing or by nothing. This proposal violates basic reason. Something cannot come from nothing. Nothing can create something. Humans created themselves. This is also an illogical and contradictory proposition. To create oneself, one must already exist. You can't create nothing from nothing. Allah created the first man from dirt and said, "Be," and it was. That's it. No man can do that. Even the Chinese nurse I was talking to admitted she had to have sex with a man and the baby had to come forth from that. And that's not always possible. Humans were created by something already created. This implies an infinite regression of cause, which ultimately means that humans do not exist. If C1 were caused by C2 and C2 by 3 to Cn1, C1 cannot exist until C... This is nonsense. This is philosophy again. If human existence is preceded by an infinite amount of causes requiring an infinite amount of time to take place, it is the same as saying that they will never take place. Human existence thus becomes impossible. If it's so impossible, how did we get here? Why are we talking about this subject? If it's so impossible. It's impossible for us to do, but for God it's not impossible. Nothing is. You have to get past this. The Greek philosopher Aristotle argued similarly that the infinite regression of the cause and the effect chain was impossible. You do something, something else happens. Again, they're using philosophy. The only remaining possibility that is humans and others created things that were created by a being which is not itself created. Aristotle finally came to the fact, he went so far around in this big circle, that he finally said, we couldn't have started ourselves from nothing. If I wasn't here, I couldn't create. So somebody had to create the first one. God had to create Adam, and from Adam He created Eve. Therefore, they cannot be pure atheists. Belief in God includes the belief that God is alone is the creator and sustainer of this world. Nothing takes place in the universe without His permission. We can do nothing on our own. No good can be obtained, nor harm avoided unless Allah decrees it. Humans are enjoined to seek refuge in the Lord of the Dawn from the evil of what He created. Allah does not attribute evil directly to Himself, because He is good, and all which comes from Him is good. The evil which comes from Allah is relative evil. It may be good from other perspectives, but evil in one perspective. For example, sunshine is essential for some plants to grow and synthesize chlorophyll. Other hand, is a result of human activity. Rain is also essential for plants to grow, yet it also causes floods. So you see, bad things can come from rain, but it's meant for good. But Allah is the one who decides it. It's not you or me. We can build a dam to hold the rain, but if Allah descends to too much rain, it's going to destroy the dam and there's going to be a flood. So still, we don't have a choice. Allah, on the other hand, does not oppress anyone. Your Lord does no wrong to anyone. Surah Al-Kahf, 1849. The evil which humans do is by Allah's permission, so that the decree is from Allah. But humans are responsible for the evil because it is a product of their choice. In other words, Allah gives us the choice. We have two paths. We can choose to do good, or we can choose to do evil. The choice is ours. At least He gives us both ways. We choose to do evil, yes, we cannot blame that on Allah. He also gave us the choice to do good. Muslim scholars of the past have distinguished between God's wish and His will. His wish is sometimes referred to as His legal wish, meaning that He wishes for humans Islam, the right way of life consisting of submission to whatever God has instructed. Again, we go back to the definition of Islam: complete surrender and submission to the will of Allah. That's it, the definition of Islam. And a person who does this is called a Muslim. That's a person who completely surrenders and submits to the will of Allah. However, He also gives humans the ability to accept His wish or reject it. God wants us to do good, but He gives us both choices. Again, we choose to do bad or good. His wish or reject it, consequently, humans may go against God's legal wish. His will, on the other hand, is referred to His creational will, meaning that what takes place is by His permission alone. Among the things which take place are events beyond human will and events which are in accordance with human will. For example, humans are governed by the laws of nature, which they cannot escape. If one jumps up, he or she must fall down. You cannot float. You jump up, you're going to come back down. Depending on how high you jump is how hard you're going to come back down and how much it hurts. If one jumps up, he or she must fall back down. If one's knee is struck by the doctor, the foot kicks out. As soon as he kicks a joint, the foot kicks out. No matter how hard the mind fights the reaction, humans cannot go against Allah's creational will. Shaquille, can you turn on the air conditioning? It's getting hot in here for some reason. Maybe it's me. When those who deny God's existence are asked why they are successful, and others have made similar or greater efforts are not, they reply that it is due to their good fortune, and the others had bad fortune, meaning I had good luck, he had bad luck. But we both know that's not true. Allah decides who's going to be rich and who's going to be poor. We as Muslims know that you being rich is not necessarily a good thing. It's a test for you. If Allah gives you everything you need and you don't share it with others, and if you don't deal with it responsibly underneath the laws of Allah, you're going to fail. In the next life you're going to be punished for it. And maybe in this life, if you do really bad. However, the man who doesn't have anything doesn't have that much to fight against. He just has to follow the will of Allah and wait until Allah gives him his risk or what he's due. It's an easier test for him. He doesn't have to worry about giving money to the poor. He doesn't have any. He's the one who's receiving the money from the poor. So you see, always being rich does not mean you have good fortune. It just means you have a bigger test. Some people don't understand this. Consequently, life is looked at being controlled by the goddess of chance. Her name is Tyche in Greek religion and Fortuna in Roman. Religious rites involve knocking on wood. They believe there's a wood god. Again, this goes against Allah. I imagine he gets very angry when somebody knocks on wood instead of saying, Alhamdulillah, or thank you be to God. Crossing your fingers hoping you don't get any bad luck. Avoiding black cats. I don't know why black cats. The black cats are the most beautiful ones to me. I think they're very shiny and very pretty. I don't know why to avoid them. 4-leaf clovers. You know, most clovers have 3 leaves. So many people sit down in the field and look and look and look and look until they find one that has 4 leaves. And they will keep it with them in their wallet for life, thinking this is good luck. Breaking mirrors brings 7 years bad luck. Well, what do the people do who break the mirrors and put them in the... They must have a lot of bad luck. Somebody has to cut and break those mirrors to put them inside the... It doesn't make any sense if they would only think just a little bit. Spilling salt. And the number 13. MashaAllah, my house here on the compound is 13. When I went to buy a house in the Philippines, I bought in block 13, I bought building number 13. You can't say I'm superstitious. And it makes no difference. The goddess of fortune is more appealing to Western atheism because it is a blonde force which does not require obedience nor assign obligations. And the people cannot even see that, thinking that good fortune, where is it coming from? Who's giving me the good fortune? They're going against their own religion. They're saying the atheists, they don't believe in God. But then they say, I have good luck. I'm carrying a clover in my pocket. The clover has power? Or does somebody give that special clover a power? They're going against their own religion. So finding a true atheist is very hard to do. As a result of modern Western civilization's preoccupation with good luck, businessmen have been reported to fly over Feng Shui, experts from Main China. There's religion, I don't know if you call it religion or not, but they're called Feng Shui. And they're mostly in China. And they bring them to guide their architects in the design of their buildings. They have to say, no, you can't do that, that would be bad luck. But this person's an atheist, and he's bringing these people from China to tell him what's the lucky. What design should this building be so that I'll make more money as lucky? They can't see that they're actually putting their faith in a higher being above them. If I do this to offend the luck of this building, I won't make any more money. That's not atheism. A true atheist wouldn't care. I'll build whatever whenever I want, however I want. Doesn't make any difference. I will win or I will lose. But it's against atheism. The commander of Apollo 13 responded to the question about any doubts he had concerning the liftoff by insisting that he should have known it was going to happen because the flight of Apollo number 13, which took off at 1300 hours, or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, on Friday the 13th. Likewise, most high-rise hotel apartments and office buildings, especially in the United States, there's no 13th floor. If you ever go on an elevator, there's no 13 button. It's considered unlucky. And this man from Apollo 13 says because he took off on the 13th on the day, and it was a Friday, and it was 1300 hours, he should have known, and it was Apollo 13, it didn't come back. It had many problems. He's blaming everything on 13. There are no houses numbered 13 in America. Instead, the whole 13th floor of the building is called 14. Good luck is too stupid to know the numbers of the building. It still has a 13th floor. Even if you call it 15, it's still the 13th floor. Why doesn't it have bad luck? Well, I confused the luck god and astaghfirullah. Now there's no 13th floor. We just did away with it. Now there's a 14th. You don't use their common sense at all. Some are labeled 12 and a half. Instead of having a size 13 shoe, I don't have a 12 and a half. I don't want size 13 shoes. Astaghfirullah. Belief in Allah requires the purification of the heart and the mind from any dependency on these similar superstitions. We don't need these. They're a waste of time and effort. Belief in God also means that God alone deserves human worship. From an Islamic perspective, worship is not merely praising, honoring, and offering sacrifice to a deity. To call on the deity for help is a fundamental part of worship. Consequently, calling on anyone other than Allah in prayer is to worship them. The Prophet's companion, calling on anyone other than Allah in prayer is to worship them. The Prophet's companion Nu'man ibn Bashir quoted him as saying, calling on anyone in prayer is worship. If anyone believes that nothing takes place except by God's will alone, It makes no sense to call on anyone other than God. There are some people who go to the graves, and whoever's in the grave, and I don't know who's in the grave, saying, "Oh, Abdullah, please ask Allah to help me." This is shirk. You're no longer believing in Allah. You're believing that man who's dead has power to ask Allah to help you. This is not the belief in only one God. This is a belief in many gods. I have been to Thailand, I have seen. In their case, they're kind of atheists, but they're not. They believe in a higher building, but they still worship everything in sight. If a man goes to a tree and says, "Oh, please, tomorrow, let me win the lottery." If he wins the lottery, that tree's become a god automatically. It'll be covered in gold leaves. There'll be food around it, candles burning. People, they don't care if they block the whole street. They'll be there worshiping this tree for a long time after that. Even if nobody else wins the lottery, they're still going to worship that tree. Hinduism, they don't like to eat cows or other animals. They just want to eat vegetables because in their religion they believe that when they die, if they've not been good, they come back as a lower life form, and they consider animals to be a lower life form. I have seen some human beings that becoming an animal would be a higher life form. So it doesn't make common sense. Design indicates a designer. Anything that's designed had to be made or designed by somebody. You can't just, this table did not just come about. How did it get perfect size? How did it get this color? How did it get this tall? It should be this tall. I couldn't see over it. Somebody had to design it. Somebody had to make it according to that design. Common sense will tell you most of these things. When human beings come across footprints, who created them? The footprint didn't come in the sand by itself. If you walked up and you see a footprint in the sand and you see nobody, still in your mind you think, "Oh, somebody's been here." And it's been recent because the wind didn't blow it away in the sand. You can find out many things from this footprint in the sand. How long his feet was to tell you how big he was, how old he is. How he's walking to tell you how old he is. If his front head is going forward, then he's probably old. If you see a stick, you see the mark in the sand, then he's probably working with a cane. He's an old man. If it's a small, petite foot, it could be a child, it could be a woman. But you know a lot from this footprint, don't you? It didn't just show up on its own. Throughout the ages, however, there's been a minority among humans who have denied the existence of God. For whatever reason. There are many reasons people deny the existence of God. Maybe he prayed and asked for something, and it didn't come. Doesn't mean it's never going to come. Maybe Allah did it for you, and it's going to come in your heaven, or hell, or wherever you are. Whatever you ask for will be given sooner or later. Maybe what you asked for was so incredible that you shouldn't receive it. Allah may be giving you mercy. You asked for $1 million and He didn't give it to you. Number one, you may not deserve it. Number two, He knows that if He gives it to you, you're going to go outside of Islam. You're going to become crazy. Next thing you know, you'll be in the bars somewhere in Thailand, somewhere, chasing girls and drinking. And He's not going to give it to you. It's going to harm you. He knows you can't pass this test. You have to stop and think, why didn't Allah give it to me? Maybe I didn't deserve it. And maybe He's going to give it to me in the next life. Don't expect everything you ask for. Your mother and father did not give you everything you asked for. I didn't get a car until I bought it myself. My father never gave me one. Even when I graduated from high school, he let me buy his old car. You don't get everything you want. It's never like this in life. Many others, as was briefly mentioned, claim and continue to claim there is no purpose at all for life. We're just put here to do whatever we want. We're just like the worms, just go around in the sand. They have no purpose. But even worms have purpose. They fertilize the soil. They have a purpose. Every single thing that has been created is here for a purpose. There can be no purpose if life evolved from the inanimate matter which only became innate by pure luck. So in other words, man was put here by pure luck. We have no reason to be here. We have no reason to stay here. None of this is common sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't understand how people's minds can even think these things. But these are things that you're going to have to talk about. If you do dive long enough, you're going to talk to every religion known to man. So you have to be prepared. You have to know the answers to these questions. The only way to defeat the atheist is through common sense, because they're using philosophy. And their philosophy is not always sane. I don't know any other way to put it. It's not sanity. To believe that he was just dropped here on earth when he knows he came through the birth canal of his mother, and she became through the birth canal of her mother, it doesn't make common sense. Who put them there? Who decided what age they're going to die? Who decided what their weight was going to be? What color their hair is? If they're going to have any hair? If they're going to be bald? What size is their nose? That's a lot of luck. You use all your luck your whole life just to be born. How much luck are you going to get? Who decides? You decide how much luck you're going to get? Allah decides. You're going to be a millionaire, you decide. Try to do it. I heard Sheikh Yusuf Estes one time talking to a Muslim about their beard. He asked, he said, does a Muslim man, do Muslims have to grow beards? That was his question. Do Muslims have to grow beards? And the man said yes. And Yusuf said no. Only the men. Yes, he's correct. Only the men. And so then he asked the man, he says, can you grow your beard? He said yes. He said, okay, I'll wait 5 minutes. Go ahead, grow your beard. I have, but hurry, please, I don't have much time. The man said, no. He said, so you see, you don't grow your beard, do you? No. Allah is the one who makes your beard grow. You're the one who decides whether you cut it, or how long it is, or if you keep the same color, or whatever. Allah gives you the choice, but you decide. So you see, even small things, like our own body, we're not in control of. We think we are. Oh, there's danger over there. I'm not going over there, maybe I'd get killed. But we don't know. Maybe Allah decided that we were safe over here, we stay here, we're going to die. When it's time, you're going to die. No matter where you are, you can't avoid it. No matter how hard you try, you cannot avoid it. When it's your time to die, it says the guardian angels will step away, and that's it. It's finished. The order has already been written. So no matter how hard we try, we cannot save ourselves. We can save ourselves pain and agony by wearing a seatbelt. If you have an accident, it may not cause us to die, but it wasn't because of the seatbelt. But the seatbelt kept you from having problems the rest of your life. If you didn't wear your seatbelt and you had the accident, maybe you break your collarbone, the rest of your life you will hurt. But you had your seatbelt and you didn't break your collarbone, and you saved yourself some of the injuries. We don't decide anything. It has to be something to decide this. So atheism does not make sense for me. Darwinism failed. The attempt to explain the origin of life using Darwin's theory fails at every step. The first step of creating the precursors of life from non-living chemicals has not been experimentally replicated. And Noah said that he believes we all came from monkeys. I guess he thought that's the only thing closest to looking like us. They kind of have hands, they kind of look like us. But I know scientists have now discovered that we are almost exactly like monkeys. With the difference is they have one less gene than we do. There's one gene difference between us and monkeys. That's a big step. You don't have that gene, you're a monkey. Who decided this? Somebody one day just said, I'll just add an extra gene, next week I'll be a human being. No, it had to be Allah. Even this failed with Darwin. If he was alive today, he'd probably be not very much hair. He'd be so overwhelmed about what science has done since he was around. Stage 1, from ignorant to organic. We went from ignorant people to organic. From the gases which presumably surrounded Earth to the simplest amino acids containing about 10 atoms, which are the most basic of biochemical universals. Experimentally, Stanley Miller in the United States showed in 1953 that by passing an electrical discharge through the appropriate gases, and I don't know what the gases were, surprisingly large amounts of amino acids were formed. The experiments were acknowledged as a major breakthrough in understanding how life got underway. It makes no difference how life got underway. Who started it? Who put the electric discharge? He did it this time. Who did it for the first man? I don't think there was electricity when Adam was made. That's recent. That's a few years ago. So who did it the first time? Even if you can do it now. That doesn't mean you were there to do it the first time, and that does not mean the people had the knowledge or the technical skills to do it. Who's giving you the knowledge now? You just dream it up on your own? Who told you to put the electricity in these gases to make up amino acids? It has to be something there to make you think. This experience of knowledge is a major breakthrough. However, until today, 5 of the 20 amino acids common to all living beings have resisted human attempts to create them artificially. So they still can't do it. They still can't compete it. They still can't make an artificial human being. A Russian biochemist by the name of Oparin in 1894 first proposed in 1924 a model of the atmosphere where the primitive Earth, free of oxygen, means oxygen literally eats up in primitive organic chemicals such as amino acid, containing hydrogen, methane, ammonia, and water. Life on the Earth is shielded from certain death due to ultraviolet cosmic rays by the ozone layer, which blankets the Earth between 15 and 30 miles above the surface. Where did it come from? Who made it? I didn't do it. It must have been Allah. Somebody had to make this ozone layer. There's another thing that came to my mind a few years back, and then I heard about it from somebody else. It says in the Quran that God created the sun and that the rays are here to warm the earth. But you know from recent history that all of the rocket ships that went out in space, it's too much unbearable cold. Even if they're right in front of the sun, it's too much unbearable cold. They're closer to the sun. If we think this way, they should burn up. Why does the sun only warm the earth? When higher up you go, for instance here, we're colder here than down on the desert floor. This is in the Quran. It says it was here to put the earth, to make the earth warm. And when you get closer to the sun, it's not warm. So this doesn't make sense. It defeats this they're talking about now. Assuming around 4 billion years ago, a sea was with a 10% solution of amino acids, sugars, phosphates, and so on, 2 major steps have to take place simultaneously. Amino acids must link together to form proteins, and other chemicals must join up to make nucleic acids, including the vital DNA. That's a lot of luck. You got to have all that together at one time without nobody doing it. So who did it? Yes, it can be done, but only Allah has the power to do it. It has not been replicated or duplicated again since. They know how it happened, okay, but they can't repeat it. They can't do it themselves. In this case, you must believe there's a higher being who created all of this. He's the only one with the power and the might to do it. Proteins are highly complex molecules. Where an amino acid typically has 10 atoms, a protein may have thousands. Who decided this? They understand it now. It just makes no difference. If you understand it, you can't do it. Nobody has the power except Allah. Stage 3. There's a lot of stages to this. The formation of the nucleus. Now they know what a nucleus is, but nobody can repeat it. Nobody can duplicate it. Stage 4. The formation of the cell wall. Just until recently, they didn't even know how the cell of the baby was come about. How a baby was born. They knew the man had sex with the woman, and sometimes the woman became pregnant and the baby came out. But until recently, they didn't know how. But in the Quran, 1435 years ago, it talked about exactly how it was done. From an Arab who had no education, could not read, could not write, how did he know? He never cut a woman open or any animal and looked inside, and then if he did, he wouldn't know what it was. How would he notice it looked like a clinging clot to the womb? He didn't know what a clot was. He lived in the desert. He doesn't know what a leech looks like. He never been in water. So where did he come up with his description? How did he know this? Allah sent Gabriel. Gabriel told him what it was. And now the scientists have confirmed that what he said 1435 years ago was true. Deism, the belief that God exists and created the world, but thereafter assumed no control over it or lives of the people. He has no control over any of the lives of the people. He just put you here and you propagate it until He's finished with us. This is craziness too. There's no way you could believe in this. How did I come about? Why do I look this way? Why do I have to wear glasses? If my mother had a choice, I'm sure she wanted me to look handsome and more handsome than this. She wouldn't want my hair to be gray and short. She probably doesn't like this long beard. Who did all this? My mother didn't decide this, and she's the one who born me or birthed me. Who decided? So it defeats itself. In philosophy, the belief that reason is sufficient to prove the existence of God, with a consequent rejection of revelation and authority. This is from Webster's. So they're trying to, what's the word I want to use? Rationalize their definition of philosophy in order to make it seem like it's more possible. You can use all the words you can think of. You're not going to make this any more rational. There's no way. There has to be somebody who created in order for it to continue. There's no way around it. For deists, there's no need to worship because our purpose in this world is unknown. So they don't worship. They don't know who to worship. They don't know why to worship. And they don't know how to worship. I can't imagine this life. I can't imagine it. Not knowing who, what, when, where, how, now, nothing. I'm just here tomorrow and I'll disappear the next day. It would be horrible to have a purpose in life. Just to wander back and forth. Why should I bother working? It ain't going to make any difference. Why don't I just steal the food from my neighbor? It's kind of useless to work. And if there's nothing in the next life, why do I care? Why don't I just kill my neighbor and take his stuff? This is the other thing that I used with the Chinese girls. I said, well, why are you here working in Saudi Arabia as a nurse? Why don't you just kill your neighbors and take their food and take their money? Because there's no God, you're not going to be punished for it. When you die, you're just going to be in the dirt. It doesn't make any difference. Why do you care? No, that's not right. Who says it's not right? Who says it's not right to kill your neighbor? And they had no rationality for this. No, that's not right. That's his, that's not mine. I shouldn't kill him. Why? For what reason? If you don't believe in God, you don't believe in punishment in the next life, what's the difference? Every naughty knows inside them. It's born into us. We know automatically. We believe in God, even if we say we don't. You can understand that they don't believe in the God of the books they have now, because it's hard to rationalize. It's hard to understand. But once you've seen the Quran and know about Islam, it's very difficult to not accept and not to understand. Fitra. It is natural to believe in God. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ related that when Allah created Adam, He took a covenant from him in a place called Naman on the day of Arafah. Then He extracted from him all of his descendants who would be born until the end of the world. And here they're talking about all of us. He took a covenant or contract from Adam and put all of us in front of Him. Everybody from Adam until the end of time in front of Him. He spoke to them face to face, saying, "Am I not your Lord?" And they, meaning us, all replied, "Yes, we testify to it. We have already been witness against ourselves. You cannot say you didn't know. You know. It's born into you. Allah asked you this before you was ever born, you and all the descendants." Allah then explained why He had all of mankind bear witness that He was their creator and only true God worthy worship. He said that was in case you, meaning mankind, should say on the day of resurrection, "Surely we were unaware of all of this. We had no idea that you, Allah, were our God. No one told us that we were supposed to worship you alone." Allah went on to explain that it was also in case some people would say, it was our ancestors who made us partners with Allah, and we are only their descendants. Will you then destroy us for what those liars did and said? This was the Prophet ﷺ explanation of the Quranic verse in which Allah said, "When your Lord drew forth from the loins of the children of Adam their descendant, and made them testify concerning themselves, saying, 'Am I not your Lord?' They said, 'Yes, we testify to it.' This is in case you should say on the day of judgment, we are unaware of this. Or in case you should say, it was our ancestors who made partners with Allah, and we are only their descendants. Will you then destroy us for what those liars did? This is in chapter 7, verse 172 and 173. The verse and prophetic explanation confirm the fact that everyone is responsible for belief in God, and on the day of judgment, excuses will not be accepted. Every human being has a belief in God imprinted in his soul. And Allah shows every idolater during the course of his life signs that his idol is not God. Hence, every sane human being is required to believe in one God who is without partners. A good example of this was the Arab who made his God from dates. He knew this was not his God. When he got hungry, he ate it. And then he would feel sad and he would make it again. And then he got hungry, he ate it again. If he truly believed that was his God, he would have never touched it, never ate it. If he truly believed that was his God, he only had to think, why did he have to create his own God? God created him. Why did he have to create God? Common sense just tells you, and your soul, because it has been printed in your soul already, you know who God is. There is no denying it. No matter who you are, you know. Since Allah made all human beings where to his godhood, when he created Adam, this oath is printed on the human soul even before it enters the fetus of the 5th month of pregnancy. So when a child is born, it has with it a natural belief in Allah. This is why we as Muslims say that every child is born as a Muslim. It comes out breathing and eating and crying. Nobody has to teach it. It knows automatically. They get hungry, it cries. Who taught it this? I didn't. I didn't want my kids to scream. Just say, hey, I want a bottle, but enough for me. You don't have to scream and cry and holler. If you got to say you got to go to the toilet, say I got to go to the toilet. I'll take you to the toilet. I don't care you can't walk. But it knows automatically what to do. We don't have to teach it anything. It comes out as a Muslim. God is the one who imprints this in them. They don't believe in anything except for God. We, as human beings, change them to whatever our religion is. If the child were left alone, it would grow up unaware of Allah in its unity. But all children are affected by the pressures of their environment, whether directly or indirectly. The Prophet ﷺ reported that Allah said, I created my servants in the right religion, but the devils made them go astray. The Prophet ﷺ also said, each child is born in a state of fitra, but his parents make him a Jew, or a Christian, or a Hindu, or a Buddhist, or anything except for a Muslim. It is like the way an animal gives birth to a normal offspring. Have you noticed any young animal born mutilated before you mutilate them? They're all clean and pure and pristine until we change them. So just as a child's body submits to the physical laws, which Allah has put in nature, its soul also submits naturally to the fact that Allah is Lord and Creator of everything. However, its parents try to make it follow their own way, and the child is not strong enough in its early stages of life to resist or oppose its parents. And most of them are too afraid to resist or go against their parents. And even as adults, later on, most people, when you ask them if they would like to become Muslim, they say, no, 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 my mother and father would hate me, would kill me. This fear is still there from childhood. They have to get over this fear. Even if they believe in the one God concept, they still, at the very end, they will worry about what their parents think. Unless they're lucky like me. My father taught me not to follow nobody, alhamdulillah. That's one of the things he gave me, was a good education about this. If you're lucky enough to be born to parents who are not prejudiced and don't care about what other people think, then you will believe what you need to believe, one way or another. It's now 10 minutes till, and it's time for questions. We will finish this chapter on atheism is a little big, and it has a lot of philosophy in it, so it takes time. So we will finish it next week. And after that we will go into chapter 10, which is Dawah to Christians. They're going to try to take most of the major sects of Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism, so all of these will be in the following weeks. These are the important weeks. So with that, any questions from anybody?
Brother Yahya, thank you very much. It was very enlightening lecture. And I agree with you completely that you don't have a real atheist. Witness to this, that even some people who claim to be atheists, when it happens, that they are in a very critical situation, they are in an airplane, and so, the natural thing that they would say, oh God.
Or oh my God.
Oh my God.
Not your God, their God.
If this is the case, so why do we have people who claim, I will not say, in my view, that they want to show themselves to be modern, to be updated, It's simply because some of these religions have been tampered with, and when they tie themselves to these, religions, they will be stand as backward and so on. But the problem that they overgeneralized about all religions, not giving themselves even a chance to study Islam and to know that the first word what was revealed to Prophet Muhammad is read. So it is the religion of knowledge, it's the religion of science, and so on. I want your comments.
Well, also some of these people, they cannot believe in what they already know. They may have studied about religion. There's been many Christian ministries to go to, missionaries to go to China and these other countries where the atheism is very high. They cannot believe in this system that they have seen. So maybe they just resist because they can't believe in what religions they have seen. Maybe they've never seen Islam. Nobody's presented it to them in a proper light, so they don't really have anything else to believe in. So they just follow the norm. Everybody else in the state is an atheist, so I'm an atheist. The missionaries who came to us, we didn't understand what they're talking about. We don't know what they're talking about, so they resisted. Usually when you talk to them in common sense about Islam, they accept. It may take them time, but they accept. Many of the people workers who have come here have accepted Islam. They said it's born into you, it's in your soul, you can't deny it. Nobody can deny it, they know it's here. I have never met any human being who could finally say, no, there's nobody who created me or everything. And that's a belief in a God. If you believe somebody created you and everything, that's a belief in God. Any other questions?
May I give another comment, please? I don't know whether you will agree with me or not, that other types of those who claim to be atheists, they are doing it from a political background, that's all. Those countries like Russia and China who, put atheism or communism as their motto, so those citizens of those countries, they just say that they are atheists.
They're just followers, basically.
Just followers,
yeah.
Yes, just followers. That's because, communism is based upon the idea of atheism, no God.
It works in those countries like China and Russia, but for instance in the United States there has never been a non-Christian president. The majority of the people are Christians, and if you said you were an atheist or any other religion, they would not vote you in. So it's the same thing in China. The majority of the people are atheists. If you don't say you're atheist, you're just making it hard for yourself. Even if you believe in God, you're still going to say you're an atheist because you don't want to be outside the norm of other people. But as the country goes more and more in population and it gets larger and larger population of Islam and other religions, then it's going to go the other way. There are whole cities in China now, I think there's 12 million or something Muslims, and there are whole cities that are Muslim. So now they can support themselves. One man by himself, it's easy for the wolf to attack. But when you get more than one, even with states, you can't do that. If there's more than one, they'll leave you alone. But if you're by yourself, everybody will attack you. So they're just doing it as followers. When a leader becomes Muslim, then all of his followers become Muslim right after that. So it's basically the same thing. Anything else? Yes?
Thank you. Well, thank you.
No, it's behind you.
Many times you'll hear atheists try to make the argument, well, if God exists, why do bad things happen? Why are there starving children? Why, are there disasters? And they try to use this as an argument, to validate the non-existence of God. Maybe, I don't know if you can give some enlightenment on that.
Well, we talked about this in the last chapter, that God is the one who decides everything that happens. He gives man a choice, right or wrong, and man chooses which way he wants to go, and he suffers the consequences from this. In Islam, we believe that no crime goes unpunished. For instance, if you wrong this man and you are non-Muslim, God has said He's going to punish you in this life and the next life. As a Muslim, He's going to punish you in this life and the next life. If you've been forgiven, it's okay. But it's just punishment and test. It's not always a bad thing. I mean, if God just threw you out here and left you alone, it means He doesn't care about you. He doesn't test me, He doesn't care about me. You have to look at it in a different way. Something is not always bad. Just because you don't like it doesn't make it bad.
Right.
It says that when we get sick as Muslims, God is taking our sin away. A fever is a good thing for us. Yes, it doesn't feel good. No, I don't like it. And maybe to you it looks like I'm very ill and don't feel well. But I know that Allah is taking my sin away. I would just assume He took it all away now, then on Judgment Day be standing there naked with all that sin around my neck. So it's not always a bad thing.
May I give another comment upon the question of Brother Abdul Ghafur? It's a very important question, and I heard it myself. But because we are human beings, our knowledge is limited and cannot compare to the knowledge of God. So what appears to be in front of us to be a disaster or bad thing, who knows at the end it will end up to be in our favor. When Jesus, peace be upon Him, suffered a lot, and then Muhammad, peace be upon Him, they suffered a lot, does it mean that God disliked them? No. It's kind of payment for the followers of those prophets that don't expect that this life will be complete happiness. Otherwise, it will be the everlasting life, you see. But a human being, in order for his faith to be fortified, strengthened, and so on, maybe he will lose a child, he will go through an earthquake, he will die in a volcano, and so on. So, at the end, we as a believer, as a Muslim, from an Islamic point of view, we know that this life is nothing but a trial. But our real hope is the hereafter. So all these disasters, due to our limited knowledge, they seem to be, with our shallow thinking, to us it seems to be that they are negative, or bad. But God who created us, He knows what is good for us. Sometimes if a person, he's poor, this is good for him. And you mentioned it, because some people, they have the nature that if they become rich, they will be corrupt. Other people, no. If they become poor, they will be corrupt, you see. Because God will give them money, and with this money, they will do good things. Some people, they are sick, or they have certain illness. Maybe if they are healthy, they will be arrogant, they will be tyrant, and so on. So I end up, summarize it or sum it up by saying that we can never compare our knowledge of the unseen with God at all. There are still, things hidden in the unseen. Otherwise, we are equalizing ourselves with God. So there are still things that we don't know what's behind it, because we are human beings. We are creatures, not creators.
Also, the people that you're usually talking about are talking about a circumstance of another human being. It didn't happen to him, but he sees this man over here suffering, he has cancer, he looks bad, he's dying. But Allah has promised that no man will be given a test that he can't pass. You may have more stamina than me. Maybe I could not stand the test you are. But God has given you this test, and He knows that you can pass it. You can bear it. He said He would not give us anything that we cannot bear. So any test that we get, we'll live through it. Or we will die, as Allah has decided. But it's for us. It may not be the same for you. You may be stronger than me. You might get more of a test. Or maybe you're weaker than me in this point, and you'll get a weaker test. So we can't blame it all on God. Alhamdulillah, Allah loves us, and at least thinks enough of us to test us. And bad things does not mean it's always bad. It just looks bad to you. If there's no more questions, this is our hour for this week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.